The next speaker is Michael Dennis.
Yes.
Regarding the light rail issue that is raising its ugly head again. Mike? How many people here want to ride a 19th century technology to nowhere and spend about $68 million per mile to do it?
Not counting continuing maintenance. Bring back the horse.
We have voted on this twice in the last 2 decades. Overwhelmingly, by margins of 2-1 and 3-1, we've said no to light rail. And now we have planning documents that the city and VIA are planning to put before the city council in the coming weeks and months. And those documents say in 106 different locations, light rail, light rail, light rail, light rail. But as we all know, we voted a year ago to put an amendment on the city charter that says first the city has to vote and allow the people to express their views. Again, that we've already done in the year 2000 and again last year. Over 150,000 people voted in those elections, yet in the planning documents that the city is now receiving in draft form, there's mention of 5,000 people that were surveyed. 5,000 compared to 150,000, which would you find more persuasive? Plus the 5,000 that were handpicked by VIA and the city to give their views on light rail. Those were ones that could vote many times on an online computer-run survey, so that it's nothing to match the actual votes that we've taken in the last 2 decades. Is there anything more?
Said it all.
Said it all. Thank you.
Right.
Question. I have a question for him.
Mike.
Okay. If light rail is not an option, what would be an option to better the public transportation?
I'm glad you asked that.
Glad you asked that, because these planning documents that I'm alerting you to, that you should, if you have trouble getting to sleep, by the way, you should pick up one of these documents and look through it. They acknowledge that there's something on the horizon called automated vehicles, autonomous vehicles, or connected vehicles. And those have the prospects of being able to eliminate a lot of the driving around that we do. They can park themselves, they can come and pick you up, they can drop you off. And if you follow the experiment that was done at Stanford University in connection with the Google car development, they found that on a free-flowing freeway, for example, if you look at the space between cars, that's 92% of the space. Only 8% of space on a freeway that's packed with cars is actually used by cars. So what happens when we get these smart cars, these autonomous vehicles? We can dial up distances as close as a NASCAR race, and just by going from 92% down to 84%, that will double the car capacity of a freeway. So we have it. Technology in a few years is going to supply us instant freeway congestion relief.
What about New York City? I mean, they have a subway system. It moves millions of people really quick from point A to point B.
And if you like living in a closed space piled on top of one another like Manhattan, you'll love the vision that's in these planning documents, because what they say is, well, we have to have transit supportive land use. In other words, when somebody wants to build in the city, they have to come and show that their zoning and regulations are being honored. What these planning documents propose is that we have required densification of our highway corridors. So we can't just live wherever we want. Having your own house with a yard and a garden and a picket fence, that's out. You can't have that. We want you to live downtown on top of each other so we can run a transit right by you like they have in New York, which is probably the only place in this country at least where it makes sense to have transit lines provide the bulk of the transportation.
a subway system or not necessarily subway underground, but a system of like that above, wouldn't make sense to transport people everywhere?
As I say, it makes sense if you want to recreate Manhattan. If you want the density that would be required to support that kind of a system, then it would work. But we're a car culture. We're built on a different basis. Our land values, we don't pay anywhere near what it costs to pay for real estate in Manhattan. There, if you're going to make it economically, you got to build way up to use that land to its maximum value. We are not going to be creating Manhattan in San Antonio.
So should we stay the same status as we are right now, and wait for the future of the autonomous cars? What would be the solution?
About a bus.
We wholly support the bus system in San Antonio, especially the BRT, the bus rapid transit. Those are good initiatives. But putting down rails at the cost of $68 million per mile makes no economic sense. That's never going to pay for itself. And then you're stuck with whatever vision we have now of where people are coming from, going to. If you read those planning documents further, if you can stay awake, it says that the planners, anyway, are abandoning the idea of a downtown destination where everybody comes from far away downtown and goes back to where they may have housing. It recognizes that there are 13 separate activity centers all around the city. The medical center is one example, and they'll now design corridors for transit between those.
Thank you.
Okay, we have